What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We have some interesting stuff to get into today. Specifically, we get to talk a bit about the Yakuza series, which is a series that I've actually been enjoying a bit now that I've kind of gotten into it with Yakuza 0. Been enjoying that game, and I'm going to start looking back at more of them. I actually played, believe it or not, the first Yakuza back on the PS2, and I just thought it was okay, and I didn't really continue the series much at all, especially since after that the second one became very expensive online. But they were asked about other platforms, which was exciting to me because that was something I had thought about. What if it went to other platforms? We're going to talk about their response there because it didn't seem to sit well with a lot of people online, specifically their response for the Switch. We're going to get into that a bit here. First, though, let's get into some of the quick news, starting with Sony's stock price. I know we talk about stocks occasionally here. We talk about the Nintendo one and everything. This one is more of a good thing. Sony stock has hit a 10-year high. And why is that a big deal? Well, Sony has had issues in the past, specifically leading up to the PS4. During that PS3 time, there were some serious concerns about Sony and if they were going to make it. I'm not even kidding. People were seriously thinking they were going to go bankrupt. They were going to have to do some serious restructuring. A lot of things were going very poorly for Sony at the time. But after the PS4 came out and they've managed to kind of fix up their pictures division and their movies and everything, believe it or not, that's actually made them some money and it's not losing them money now, which is good, obviously, but it's something no one really expected. The PlayStation 4 division, or the PlayStation in general, has been doing great, obviously, but just in general, as a company, they are much stronger now than they were, 6-7 years ago before the PS4 was out. So that's great to hear, and you're going to see their stock quote here. Believe it or not, that is the highest they've been since January of 2008 in Tokyo. It's a 10-year high currently of 5,705 yen. I actually noticed that it's gone up since then. It was $51.30, and it just continues to go up. And this is good news overall for the video game division, as, of course, we need Sony to be strong, as well as Microsoft and Nintendo. Nintendo is fine. They have a lot of money, and honestly, their stock is wavering, but it's still way higher than it was for the Switch. And Microsoft is Microsoft. They're not going anywhere, seriously. The Xbox originally was a hobby for Bill Gates. So Sony was always the one I worried about, especially during the PS3, but now it looks like they are completely stable, and we're going to this next generation with two very healthy companies with Sony and Microsoft battling out for the power division. And of course, we have Nintendo kind of with their more creative aspects and everything that they have going on. It's very exciting now for video games. Also, we've talked about Panic Button quite a bit, right? They seem to be like the Switch developer who keeps bringing over these really big games, with their latest announcement being Warframe. Well, they announced another game for the PlayStation this time, yesterday, and it was Subnautica. That's actually coming to the PS4 this winter. Now, it is out on the PC. It was an early access, man, forever. I mean, seriously, I saw this on Steam so long ago, and I think it released semi-recently, but it was an early access forever. And then they also have it currently on Microsoft's game preview program. But yes, Panic Button keeping very busy, not just with the Switch, but with other systems as well, as we're seeing. And their latest one with the PlayStation being Subnautica. So good for Panic Button. They're very busy, and we'll see what else they have up their sleeves now, as they seem to be just announcing a bunch of games heading into the holidays with Warframe and Subnautica, and we'll see what the other projects are. And wouldn't you know it, EA can't catch a break, because do you remember a while ago, this was like Madden 2009, when Brett Favre was with the Packers. They put him on the cover and everything. He had the Packers outfit obviously on, the uniform and everything, and then he gets traded to the Jets, where he leaves and then goes to the Jets, and they had to do all this crazy stuff. They made it so you could download cover art and everything to fix it if you wanted to. That was a whole thing. Well, it looks like they're in a situation that's worse this time. It's the same, but it's worse. And mostly because it seems to heavily affect their single-player campaign that they have set up. Of course, the journey with Alex Hunter actually will be heavily affected. Now, if you've seen the cover for FIFA 19 that's due out at the end of September, you'll notice that they have, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo on the front cover, second year in a row now, and he's sporting Real Madrid uniform. Well, here's the issue. He was actually traded yesterday out of nowhere to Juventus. So that's a bit of an issue, because now he's not going to be on the team that he's sporting on the front of FIFA 19, and he's not going to be on the team that he's sporting during the campaign in the gameplay. So now EA is not happy. They can't be happy. They're scrambling right now, trying to figure out what they can do, whether they have to, I guess, change up some of the campaign, fix it, because The idea was that he was supposed to be on Real Madrid in the campaign, and now he's not going to be. When the game comes out, it's going to already be outdated like that. The cover art, they can still fix that. I feel like they can, but the campaign, all the design and programming, that's not good. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see there. Fun times for EA, right? It's another one of those things with sports. I guess sometimes you just announce it so far out ahead that you can't do much about it. All right, with some of the smaller stuff out of the way, let's get into some of the bigger stuff, starting with Yakuza. Now, of course, it's a very popular series now. It's been kind of building up for a while now, but it's pretty much been building up on PlayStation platforms. It has been on other systems, by the way. There's one that I think a lot of people really didn't even realize was out. Yakuza's been on a Nintendo platform before, and that actually, believe it or not, is a reason that they are very, very timid about talking about Yakuza being on the Switch at all. In fact, they had an interview, the producer from Yakuza had an interview with Gameblog, which appears to be a French publication, about going to other platforms. They talked about the Xbox and they talked about the Switch, but this was the producer's words specifically about both of them, but mostly about the Switch, saying, "To be realistic towards what happened, Yakuza 1 and 2 for Wii U was a significant failure, but our goal is still to develop cross-platform as much as possible, and we know that it brings an extra audience, that it allows us to attract more people. That being said, when it comes to Switch, I am convinced that it would not be the ideal platform on which to develop Yakuza games. Maybe the public is not expecting that kind of game on Switch. They may be used to different games. It may not be the ideal platform. Regarding Xbox One, we could consider it, knowing that Xbox One users might be more likely to be interested in a game like Yakuza. That could be an option." So this, unfortunately for Switch owners, appears to be once again the Wii U bug kind of crawling up and biting the entirety of the Switch again. See, they're talking about a game called Yakuza 1 and 2 HD. It released on the Wii U back in 2013, and it barely sold. When I say it barely sold, when the charts, you know, we talk about the sales charts. We're talking about Media Create, by the way, later on. Well, you know, we talk about the sales charts. I always say, oh, there's like 20, sometimes there's 40. Well, they had a top 50 at the time in Japan, and that did not make it in its debut week, which implies that it sold less than 2,000 copies in its debut week in Japan on the Wii U. That's kind of an issue. That kind of leaves a bit of a mark or an impression on you, because that means that they definitely lost money on that. Probably quite a bit of money, because porting, well, it takes time, energy, and money. Obviously, you got to pay people to do it, and they definitely lost money on that one. There's no way they could have made any money or even broken even on less than 2,000 copies in its debut week, because it's not selling more after that, really. I mean, it'll sell some, but if it can't crack the top 50 in its first week, it's not really going to do much after that. And unfortunately, that seems to be what they're basing their decision on here. It seems to be the Wii U. Now, the collection at the time was the first one and the second one, seemingly the PS2 versions. They weren't optimized well. They didn't look very good, but they put them out hoping that it would sell and maybe they can attract an audience from Nintendo's platforms. Didn't do well at all on what at the time was, I assume, at least probably at least a 2 million install base, since the Wii U did at least get up over 3 million overall before it finished up in Japan. But man, that's kind of a shame that the Wii U is still pushing third parties away despite the Switch doing so well, especially in Japan, where Yakuza is still pretty popular. I mean, it's a good series there. It sells well, and it's very odd to see this, but that's the way it is right now. They still look at the Wii U as, I guess, a barometer for them if they haven't released anything on the Switch yet. This is Sega, but they don't seem that interested in Yakuza after what happened with the Wii U. They also talk about the Xbox being possibly a good spot for it, which I do question a bit, since the Xbox audience up until Nier hasn't really been that interested in Japanese-based games, but I mean, it might even be an easier port job with the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 being so similar, so they might be like, why not? Either way, it's interesting to see Yakuza possibly jumping to another platform just to get more of an audience. I don't think it's all exclusive in any way. I don't know of any contract or anything that's been talked about before, so maybe they're just used to the PlayStation platform because it has a big audience in Japan and all around the world especially, so maybe that's just where they're feeling safe. But we'll see if it ever makes the jump. It's just a shame that, yes, the Wii U, it's still haunting the Switch. Next up, let's talk about Code Vein, as it's been delayed to 2019. If you remember, it was supposed to actually release at the end of September, the 27th, 28th, and they're now pushing it to 2019, and it's really hard to tell why. I have a feeling it's just because it's getting so crowded. Maybe they wanted to push it further, maybe wanted to optimize more, maybe they had some ideas around the game. They did put out a statement though saying, Code Vein has received an enormous amount of positive feedback from eager fans who have received hands-on time with in-development versions of the game over the past 9 months. Armed with knowledge of how well the game has already been received, we made the decision to postpone the release of Code Vein to further refine its gameplay in an effort to exceed the expectations fans already have of the title. It was a difficult decision to make, but we feel it is the correct one. So yes, if you're looking forward to Code Vein, it's kind of a shame it's being pushed to next year. It also has had some people online, I've seen this, wonder if a Switch version is in the works. Honestly, I'd be shocked if there wasn't. I don't know if it was delayed specifically for that though. I have a strong feeling they're looking at this release lineup all around September and October now, and they were just like, you know what? Let's just wait till 2019. We don't want to get buried or forgotten about. September is packed. So I could see why they're looking at that and saying, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and we don't really need to release it now. We could push it to like early 2019, maybe February or somewhere in there, and probably get better sales or at least more attention. That's more or less what I would say is happening here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they said, oh yeah, we're also bringing it to the Switch, because obviously it's a Japanese-influenced game by Bandai Namco. Has said they're going to push a lot of resources towards the Switch, but at least for now, it's on, of course, all the other platforms currently, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's just not coming until 2019. Next up, let's talk a bit about Overwatch, specifically their Overwatch League, their esports that they have, professional esports and everything. It's actually getting a little more mainstream than you might expect. They've signed a deal now with Disney and ESPN, and they're going to be airing their different events on TV, actual TV. I'm not talking about like ESPN2 or you know, the Ocho or something. No, actual ESPN and Disney. This was the actual agreement that they announced along with Disney, and it looks like you're going to be flipping around the channels and you might seriously just see Overwatch being played in front of you. The multi-year broadcast deal that they've announced with Disney and ESPN includes the Overwatch League playoffs, the Season 1 grand finales from the Barclays Center in the New York next month, and Overwatch League Season 2 next year. Seriously, this is a pretty big deal to have all of this on the flagship ESPN channel and not some offshoot or ones where they put like weird stuff like, I don't know, you know, you see things like obviously dodgeball and like all kinds of crazy stuff. No, this is the actual ESPN. I remember I've seen like Rocket League show up on TV occasionally at night, which was pretty cool too. But Overwatch and what Blizzard is trying to do here with Overwatch, make it as professional as possible with the league and OWL and everything. Yeah, this is a big move, especially if you're really into Overwatch or you really enjoy esports and stuff. This is a really big deal to try to make it more mainstream. I'll be curious if they have anything about their ratings or how many people tune in, because this could seriously kind of pave the way a bit for more esports showing up on TV, especially with ESPN and maybe Disney. It's interesting to see, and I guess Overwatch being as big as it is now with their leagues is the, I guess, the best possible esport to really push in there. And our last bit of news, let's finish up with the Media Create sales charts today. Of course, these are the Media Create sales charts are the physical sales in Japan specifically. Every week they put these out and we can kind of get a look at how things sold and kind of the fluctuations in the market. I'm going to say this was kind of a down week. I do kind of see it as the calm before the Octopath Storm, as I'm pretty confident Octopath Traveler is going to do very well in Japan, even though it's going to debut on a Friday, so we'll only have a Friday and a Saturday. I do think its debut 2 days are going to be very, very good. I will be very curious to see if it can crack 100,000 in the first 2 days. That will be exceptionally impressive, but that's next week. Let's talk about this week, starting with the top 10, with Mario Tennis Aces at the top, 32,697. That has now crossed 200,000 units in Japan alone. Good to see from Mario Aces. I hope that they just put more into it going forward. Minecraft, that's the one that's like the better together, update the physical version, everything. 106,000 of those have now moved, by the way. 19,000 more moved this past week. Splatoon 2, I've told you guys, it's never going away. 16,362. That's now at 2.4 27 million. That's pretty impressive. Zanki Zero did debut on both the PS4 and the Vita. It debuted at number 4 for the PS4 at 15,541. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe there at number 5. The Crew 2, Zanki Zero, this one on the Vita was 9,111. Kirby Star Allies, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and then Super Mario Odyssey. Right below Odyssey was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, by the way. That's now coming up very, very soon. It'll be at 200,000, probably in the next 3 weeks. I also want to make mention that Ys 8, we talked about that before on the Switch. It didn't have the best debut. It's actually fallen down to number 20, and by next week, it'll probably be off the charts completely, and it might get to 10,000 units at this point. It's kind of a shame, but that's just the way it is when a game, I guess, releases late. But still, it's Ys 8, and I would have liked to see it do better. Jumping over to hardware, Nintendo Switch at the top, 44,237. That is down 50,762 from the previous week. And now, of course, the Switch is at 1.26 million units sold through. That is ahead of last year's year-to-date. But, of course, this year had extra months from the beginning, as it, of course, had January and February. The lifetime, of course, over 4.5 million. The PlayStation 4, 17,834. That is also down. It seems like almost everything was pretty much down in some way this past week. And then now the PlayStation 4 year-to-date has passed 1 million units sold, which is, again, impressive for the PS4, considering that is actually tracking ahead of last year's year-to-date. A lot of that probably has to do with Monster Hunter helping out in the beginning. The 3DS, basically the same, 7,232. PlayStation Vita, 3,444. And then the Xbox One did drop heavily, almost 200 units, down to 88. So as I said, nothing major happening. It was a pretty basic week. Look forward more so to next week when we see Octopath having its numbers put out to see if Switch sales are affected, and then of course what number Octopath can put up for its first week. I'm expecting some good numbers. I'm excited for Octopath, by the way, if you haven't been able to tell. I do have the Wayfarer edition coming Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll do an unboxing here and everything, but nothing crazy this past week. It was pretty much just status quo in Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is the Yakuza series going to the Xbox or the Switch. Are you kind of disappointed that the Wii U still seems to have an influence on third-party developers who are looking at moving games to the Switch, and they're timid about it, they're not sure? Are you really, I guess, are you frustrated with the Wii U still having an effect on what has been very successful for the Switch so far? It seems to be keeping Yakuza developers from moving that over. It's kind of a shame there, but the Xbox might see that series still. That could be interesting to see. Also, let me know what you think about Overwatch going to TV with ESPN. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.